If you had a daughter with a crippling condition, any parent would do anything to help her. But what if you chose a therapy that seemed to turn her against you, that even landed you in jail in a face-off against the toughest enemy ever, a justice system determined to tear your family apart? And here's another horrifying what if. What if you came to find out that the therapy that started all of this appears to be no better than playing with a Ouija board?
You have this family that find themselves caught up in this hellish nightmare brought on by overzealous prosecutors. There can't be anything worse than that.
Julian and Tali Wendrow had a simple dream of domestic tranquility in their pleasant Detroit suburb of West Bloomfield.
It's a pretty quiet life, typical upper middle class community in the Midwest.
This community is exactly what we were looking for.
They never imagined they could be charged with unspeakable crimes, having their kids ripped from their home, Julian locked behind bars, faced with the possibility of spending the rest of his life in prison, with one thought pounding in his brain.
What am I doing here? What am I doing here?
It's literally craziness. It's going down the rabbit hole in Alice in Wonderland.
This is not what Julian, a native of South Africa, expected from the land of the free when he moved here about 20 years ago after meeting Tali. She worked in the county court system, he a house painter. They had 2 children, Aislinn and her younger brother Ian, and family was truly the center of their lives.
Our primary focus was making sure that the kids were well taken care of, and if there was an issue that needed to be addressed, we would address it.
And there turned out to be plenty of issues.
They drop a bomb on you, basically. They say, you know, you have a big problem.
Aislinn was diagnosed with severe autism around age 2.
What do you do?
Well, you first cry, and Tali did a lot of that.
She's a beautiful young lady.
But like the 10.2 million families in this country living with a special needs child, they came to realize that Aislinn was a blessing.
I love, being with her, whatever I can do. I just being in her presence is just a wonderful thing. She's a gift from God.
As the Wendrows would discover, autism is a mysterious condition, a neurological disorder that impacts every child differently. Some kids can function well. Some, like Aislinn, are profoundly disabled. Unable to talk, Aislinn lives in her own silent world.
Frustration is that you had every reason to believe there could be so much more in her. If we could just find a way to unlock what's holding her back.
To understand the Wendrows' pain, you have to understand all they've done to help Aislinn break out. They spent years researching every treatment under the sun and trying most of them. They tried various therapies, special diets, even autism summer camps. But nothing had broken through. Aislinn wouldn't talk, couldn't communicate. In 2004, she's still in a special autism class at school doing work similar to this, matching pictures, connecting dots.
You believe that there was a person inside, there was someone in there.
There is someone in there, absolutely.
But then, what looked like a miracle, a breakthrough autism treatment that took the country by storm.
I had seen something incredible.
As ABC News had reported on Primetime Live in 1992, a new therapy had appeared on the scene, something called facilitated communication, or FC.
Inside these autistic bodies, there was someone who had something to say.
It seemed like a revolutionary idea, that if someone holds an autistic child's hand or arm a certain way, that child can type their own thoughts. And for the first time, every parent's dream, actual communication.
Tell me your favorite word to spell.
Intelligent.
There are no drugs or special equipment required, just an ordinary keyboard and a properly trained facilitator. For the first time, the Wendrows feel that maybe, just maybe, they found an answer to their prayers.
We believed.
That belief turns to unalloyed joy when Aislinn tries FC and suddenly seems to be able to answer questions.
Facilitated communication winds up being a breakthrough.
We're absolutely in tears. Initially it was, oh my goodness, this is great. Wow, I wish I'd found it sooner.
So of course, the Wendrows fight to get FC for Aislinn at school. Almost overnight, Aislinn's days of matching pictures and connecting dots are through. Now, she's in a regular class, doing the same work as normal students. She supposedly completes homework, does math problems, writes poetry. By the time she graduates middle school, a teacher is reporting Aislinn not only wants to go to college, she hopes to become a professor.
All these dreams that we'd had that we thought were dashed are back. And now maybe she will go to university. Maybe she will have a real job and have a lot more independence in her life.
In a statement to 2020, the district says that the results were surprising. This 8th grade evaluation of Aislinn claims she reads and comprehends at grade level. Later on, she'd even develop opinions about President Bush and the Iraq War.
The Wendrows think they've achieved the impossible. Julian even travels the country to spread the word about the wonders of FC. But what the family doesn't know is that, from the purest desire to help their daughter, the stage is now set for a tragedy that will tear them apart. Aislinn is about to send her parents to jail.
This mess erupted because I tried so damn hard to help this child.
It was just a few keystrokes, a couple of sentences on a computer screen.
On November 27, 2007, right around Thanksgiving, the severely autistic Aislinn Wendrow is describing her weekend and types this on her computer at school. My dad gets me up. He puts his hands on my private parts. Wendrow's lives would never be the same.
There was a message on the answering machine, and I listened to it. He said there's been this allegation. It's indescribable. Wow!
You tell me.
Before this, the Wendrows were convinced Aislinn had achieved a kind of miracle using a therapy called Facilitated Communication, or FC. A technique where a trained person using a special grip supposedly helps Aislinn move her hand to the letters so she can type out her thoughts. But that was before she entered high school and got a new facilitator named Cindy Scarcella.
Of all the people who had ever done facilitated communication with Aislinn, she knew the least about it. She sat through 1 hour, she said, of unpaid training.
1 hour.
1 hour.
That was enough for Scarcella to facilitate those sex allegations and everything to follow.
The allegations were just horrific, the kind of story would keep you up at night.
Lori Brazier of the Detroit Free Press covered the story from the very start. She says the school reported the allegations and the prosecutor's office sprang into action. She says that was their reputation with sex cases.
There was this sense that they'd never met a child who hadn't been molested. If an allegation was made, they would charge immediately.
Did they have forensics?
No.
Did they have statements from any other adults?
No.
They have anything they found in the house?
They had nothing. They had nothing.
What was the case based on?
The case was based on Aislinn's allegations, supposed allegations.
Aislinn, the autistic child who can't speak.
Right.
Okay. Has she used these before?
Now, it's just 2 days after Aislinn made those somewhat vague allegations at school. She enters this room at a special county agency where investigators hope she'll provide more details. They're watching what goes on from behind a glass.
Well, my name's Amy, and my job is to talk with kids about things that have happened.
A forensic interviewer is on the right side of the screen. On the left is the facilitator, Cindy Scarcella.
I want you to tell me everything that happened last weekend.
The Wendrows, as well as experts in FC, had advised investigators to bring in another facilitator who knew nothing about what Aislinn was claiming. But that doesn't happen.
His penis is in you, and he's kissing you.
And now, with her help, Aislinn's allegations are mushrooming. The story's becoming more sensational. They type that sexual abuse went on since Aislinn was 6, and that Tolly did nothing. That Julian has taken photos, even forced her younger brother Ian to take part.
Okay, so your dad makes your brother touch him and you in your private parts.
The accusations are shocking if they are Aislinn's words, and investigators believe they are. They accept FC in large part because they say Julian and Tolly did. But the Windrows realize now they've been deceiving themselves all along.
And we had to swallow a pretty bitter pill. It became pretty clear that that we were wrong.
They believed in FC more than anybody else.
So what? You know, a parent will try anything, and, you know, if they think it's going to help the child, they're the parent. It's the police's job to figure out whether she's reliable and whether a crime has been committed.
The authorities often get criticized because they don't follow up on allegations. Here, they did the opposite. They went after it. They were aggressive, thorough.
If they were thorough, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you. This was, I have a charge, this guy's guilty, we're going to set about trying to hang him. Don't bother us with the facts.
And Gordon says alarms should have been going off during that very same interview. Listen to these incredible mistakes.
What's Grandma's name? Her name's Julie?
Aislinn and Scarcella type out her grandma's name is Julie. It is Betty. They say Aislinn's dog's name is Henry. It's actually Nelson.
At each stage, it became more ridiculous. Crazy things that to them was meaningless because they had a really good story here and they were running with it.
Not only running with the story, running to try and back it up. It doesn't go well. The police search the Windrows' home and computers for those naked pictures. They find none. They take Aislinn for a medical exam. The nurse reports she observes no acute injuries.
It made absolutely no sense. And I truly thought this is just a horrible misunderstanding and it's gonna be fixed.
Tolly was confident because after so many years of trying to help Aislinn, there is one clear contradiction at the heart of these allegations.
If you've got a kid who can't talk and you are abusing that child, you don't fight so hard to make that kid talk.
And other people are already questioning the heart of the case, that Aislinn is able to communicate at all. Brazier says as soon as her first story on the Windrows ran, she got a call from one of Aislinn's former teachers.
And she said, there is no way that this child's able to type. And I said, that's not what the police are saying or the prosecutors. And she said, if you said to Aislinn, point to the sky, the child would not be able to do that.
I'm gonna write an A. I'll write a B.
When I met with Aislinn, there was no facilitated communication. So unlike the investigators, I got to see how Aislinn would respond without someone helping.
Which is the B? Aislinn, point to the B for me. That's an A?
The obvious question, if she can't identify letters, how can she spell? And if she can't spell, how could she write?
This is a C, that's the B, that's right.
The only conclusion is, well, then she never could have said anything through FC. She couldn't have typed.
It all leads to one disturbing conclusion, a conclusion scientists have been reaching for years. Facilitated communication is fake.
Long before this case, studies had found repeatedly kids weren't actually revealing inner thoughts using FC. The facilitators were typing for them, leading the child's hand, like a psychic over a Ouija board.
But wait a minute. If Aislinn wasn't typing those allegations, it meant Scarcella was. How and why would she do that? But first, things take a much darker turn.
Bullshit, man. You know what's going on because you've experienced it firsthand.
Aislinn's 13-year-old brother Ian is about to be dragged into the investigation. In a police interview, you have to see to believe.
See Ian Windrow with his sister Aislinn is to witness a rare and poignant intimacy. It's as close to her as any brother could be.
She's adorable, and she's the best. I love her. She's the best sister I could ever have.
What's the bond like between the two of you?
It's very strong.
So strong, in fact, that when Ian turned 13, he turned his bar mitzvah into a joint ceremony in a synagogue filled with warmth.
That was probably one of the best days of my life, to be honest, because there was just so much positivity that was involved in that.
But 2 months later, it's all negative. Aislinn has typed those outrageous allegations via facilitated communication. And just hours later, Aislinn and Ian are ripped from their home by state child protection agents.
as part of a safety plan.
I thought I was feeling what I would feel if they actually had died. I felt that depth of loss, and I didn't know if I wasn't going to see them again.
I looked at her through the window and watched her, just like drive away, and I thought, hopefully this is going to be over soon.
Not by a long shot. The machinery of the criminal investigation is already in high gear. And after that all-important forensic interview with Aislinn and her facilitator, Cindy Scarcella...
So your dad makes your brother touch him and you in your private parts.
Police now believe Ian is a witness and a fellow victim of Julian's abuse.
Is there something going on in your house? No.
It's perhaps the most troubling image of the entire case. Ian is brought to an interview room at the West Bloomfield Police Headquarters. A small boy talking to a seasoned police detective named Joseph Brousseau, who's not always visible in this video.
I don't know anything.
You don't know anything at all?
No.
For more than an hour, Ian is subjected to intense questioning, accusations, and a kind of psychological warfare by Detective Brousseau.
This is a 13-year-old child. He had no adult there looking out for his interests whatsoever.
It's obvious. You know what has happened between your dad and your sister. There's no doubt about it. And we agreed that we were only going to talk about things that were true today, right?
I know, but
Brousseau tells Ian the interview is all about the truth, but then proceeds to lie to him.
There has been some more evidence that has come forward which clearly indicates that there's definitely something been going on in the house and you are a part of it.
He tells the boy a call has just come in, saying the police have concrete evidence that goes beyond Aislinn's statements.
What exactly did you find, or is that something you can tell me?
Yeah, that's part of the investigation that can't be revealed at this point, okay? And like I said, I'm not going to lie to you. If I could tell you, I would, but I can't.
Not true. The police have already searched the Windrow home, found nothing. But despite the interrogator's mind games, little Ian remains resolute, insisting he's never seen his father abuse Aislinn.
Mistakenly?
No.
Never?
No.
Okay.
It has never happened.
Are you not ready to talk about it yet?
No. Everything I told you is everything I know up to the point of everything you told me, so I don't know anything else.
The pressure starts to break the young boy down. He's scared, exasperated, even brought to tears.
You're lying to me.
When Brousseau still hasn't gotten the answers he's looking for, he turns hostile.
You're not a good liar, buddy. You're not a good liar.
I'm intending to, I guess. I'm not trying to lie, is what I'm saying.
You look at me. Start by telling me the truth.
I have to tell you the truth.
I think you've been telling me some of the truth, but I don't think you're being 100% honest with me. Okay? I'm not a dummy. You're going to tell me that you have never, ever seen any type of sexual contact between your dad and your sister?
No.
Frazzled by the intense badgering, Ian offers all he can think of, that his father has showered with Aislinn because she can't do it herself.
Does him showering her count? I don't know.
Has he ever explained to you why he has to do that?
He didn't have to. I knew why. She had autism. She needed help showering.
Brousseau's report on this interview goes into detail about the showering, as well as what Ian calls his dad's jokes, where he flashed him, but says little about Ian's denials of witnessing abuse, and nothing at all about Brousseau's own lies to the boy. The emotional damage done by the interrogation is immediate and obvious. Ian is shattered. He has stood by his father, but Detective Brousseau has corrupted their relationship.
I've lost the image I've had of my dad. The image of a trustworthy person.
Brousseau may be good at asking questions to frighten teens, but when we suggested he answer my questions, he refused. In sworn testimony, he said what he did was acceptable. He calls the lies tactics necessary to get Ian to reveal all he knew.
It really came home to me how malicious and vindictive these people are, how aggressively they wanted to get us.
As the noose tightens around Julian and Tali, the kids get shuffled from home to home. Aislinn winds up in downtown Detroit, Ian in Pontiac at this juvenile home.
It was a shock, to say the least. I was moved in with kids who were like at the time 17 and 18, whatever, much older than me, who had actually been abused, you know, and these are weird kids. It was scary.
The ordeal is punctuated by heart-wrenching moments like this. Ian tries to call his mom, but she is under strict orders not to have any contact with him whatsoever.
And for a brief moment, she asked, you know, hello. I said, Mom, and then she hung up.
And I heard him say, Mom? And I hung up because I was so afraid that if they somehow found out that I had contact with him, that it would be over. And then I just sobbed.
It was incredibly sad. I was like depressed the entire day.
Then the hammer drops. On December 5th, 8 days after those fateful keystrokes were first typed, Julian is home alone when police in SWAT gear come to arrest him.
So they cuffed me in the front, they put me in the police car. He told me, we're going to take you to the court, you're going to be arraigned, and you'll be back home within an hour or two. That's not what happened.
Instead, Julian is held here, in solitary, a 6-by-6-foot cell.
All I knew was the counts they charged me with, mandatory, 75 years in prison. Life, it's life to me. I would never have the opportunity to hold my children again.
Tali is also arrested, but makes bail and is allowed to remain home wearing an ankle bracelet tracking device. Neither of them knows anything about Aislinn.
How often were you tormented that I don't know where she is, I don't know who has her, I don't know how they're taking care of her?
Every day. Every day.
That had to be the worst part.
Yeah, absolutely. And having no idea who was tucking her in at night, who was, you know, hugging her, all of that.
With the whole family's future hanging by a thread, the case is building toward a moment of truth.
Thank you, Anna. Aislinn, am I a boy or a girl?
And an answer to this question. Why would facilitators put words in the mouths of kids like Aislinn?
This is not the first time this has happened.
Other facilitators have made accusations like that?
Absolutely.
Is there something going on in your house? No.
Convinced Ian is both witness and victim, he's brought to an interview room at the West Bloomfield Police Headquarters. A small boy talking to a seasoned police detective named Joseph Brousseau, who's not always visible in this video.
I don't know anything.
You don't know anything at all?
No.
For more than an hour, Ian is subjected to intense questioning, accusations, and a kind of psychological warfare.
This is a 13-year-old child. He had no adult there looking out for his interests whatsoever.
It's obvious. You know what has happened between your dad and your sister. There's no doubt about it. And we agreed that we were only going to talk about things that were true today, right?
Brousseau tells Ian the interview is all about the truth, then proceeds to lie to him.
There has been more evidence that has come forward which clearly indicates that there's definitely something going on in the house and you are a part of it.
Several times he tells the boy the police have concrete evidence that goes beyond Aislinn's statements. In reality, they have nothing. But despite the mind games, Ian insists he's never seen his dad abuse Aislinn.
Mistakenly?
No.
Never?
No.
Okay.
It has never happened.
Are you not ready to talk about it yet?
No. Everything I told you is everything I know up to the point of everything you told me, so I don't know anything else.
You're lying to me. In the house.
When Brousseau still hasn't gotten the answers he's looking for, he turns hostile.
You're not a good liar, buddy. You're not a good liar.
I'm intending to, I guess. I'm not trying to lie, is what I'm saying.
Ian, look at me. Start by telling me the truth.
I have to tell you the truth.
I think you've been telling me some of the truth, but I don't think you're being 100% honest with me. Okay? I'm not a dummy. You're going to tell me that you have never, ever seen any type of sexual contact between your dad and your sister.
No.
My stomach is turning. I'm sick. I'm sick standing here.
This is the first time Julian Wendrow has returned to the Oakland County Jail building since he was locked inside here for 80 days. Almost all of them in solitary confinement.
This in here is inhumane. Lying on a concrete floor, lights on 24/7, 2 blankets, no pillow, no nothing. It's sickening.
The man responsible for Julian's jailing was this man, Oakland County Prosecutor David Gorsica. He claims he was just prosecuting a legitimate charge, that Julian was abusing his autistic daughter, Aislinn.
I had an opinion that said there was abuse in the house.
He gave this opinion in a sworn deposition.
You try to assess every witness's credibility, but that issue is left for the trier of fact. Ultimately, it's for the jury to decide who to believe.
Despite the questions about the legitimacy of facilitated communication, Gorzyka finds it hard to believe that Aislinn's facilitator, Cindy Scarcella, was just making up those accusations.
To me, you know, if someone's just holding an elbow or a wrist, I mean, and they're leading, I mean, that means they're lying for the person. I mean, that seems to me a little far-fetched.
It's a key question. If the allegations aren't real, why would Scarcella type what she did?
Why would she ever do that?
I can't tell you what's going on in the brain, but I can tell you that this is not the first time this has happened.
Other facilitators have made open-ended accusations like that?
Absolutely.
Jim and Suzette Wheaton were shocked when they heard about the charges.
Believe it or not, it's true. Way back in 1994, Hugh Downs reported on one such case in Maine for 2020.
Betsy had claimed through facilitated communication that she was being abused.
Just like the Wendrow case, a facilitator came up with sex allegations against stunned parents.
Can you put Gumpy in the truck?
That's when this man stepped in, Howard Shane. He runs a communication center for autistic kids at Children's Hospital, Boston. Back then, Shane came up with a test showing one set of pictures to a facilitator and a completely different set to the child. When he asked what they saw every single time, the answer was whatever picture he had shown the facilitator.
I don't think it's conscious.
Shane studied what was going on and concluded the facilitator's behavior wasn't malicious. Instead, it was a bizarre psychological phenomenon he called the savior effect. The facilitators want to help so much, they don't realize they're making up what they type.
If you think you're really going to help someone, that alone drives you to put reality aside.
The charges were dropped in Maine, just as they were in many other courtrooms where the same thing happened.
My understanding, there were 30 to 40 cases. I was personally involved in 12.
Now, in an effort to prevent another travesty of justice, Shane is hired to testify on the Wendrow's behalf.
You'll see a dramatic difference in her ability when the facilitator is unaware of the information.
But Gorzyka was unswayed.
That's a retained defense expert, so they're going to say what defense hired them to say.
And ready to prosecute.
I'm going to let you ask questions of the facilitator after the facilitated communication.
But Judge Mark Barron is more skeptical about FC. He holds a special hearing to see how Aislinn answers questions her facilitator can't hear. Julian is there. That's him in the orange jail jumpsuit. This is the first time he's seen his daughter in 2 months.
There's my daughter there. She can't express herself. I can't help her. I couldn't go and help my child.
Have you ever tried to influence purposely when she facilitates?
Absolutely not.
Amazingly, despite repeated warnings to find someone new, the prosecution continues to use Cindy Scarcella.
And I have a finger in front of her elbow and one behind.
At this point in time, going to have the facilitator wear white noise headphones.
To honor the judge's demand that Scarcella not hear the questions, the prosecution team offers to have her wear these headphones to block out the sound. But wait a minute.
So these are the headphones that they were actually proposing to be used.
Howard Shane actually uses those very headphones with autistic kids in his clinic. He says they don't block out all sound, they just block out ambient noise, which makes it easier to hear what's being said. In court, he jumps to his feet to warn the judge.
They cancel noise, not speech. If I hadn't been there, they would have proceeded. The facilitator would have heard the question, and it would have looked like she was actually typing the answer, and I think it would have been the end. Dad would probably be in jail today.
Thanks to Shane, the judge abandons their idea and instead orders Scarcella to leave the courtroom entirely during the questions.
Mrs. Scarcella stepped outside for a moment, and I'm going to ask you a question.
Now, the moment of truth. The court will see what I saw for myself as Aislinn is asked a simple question.
Do you have a brother or sister? And if you do, what is their name?
Scarcella returns and facilitates.
She typed in 7BQJVWTT7YI. Can I ask Mrs. Scarcella to step out here and ask another question?
Scarcella leaves again, so she can't hear the next question.
Am I a girl or am I a boy?
Back comes Scarcella. Back comes more gibberish.
Okay, and her response was 6 space WMTI.
Everyone was just stunned. Did he see what we just saw?
The case seemed to fall apart.
It did fall apart.
Not exactly. Pay close attention to what happens next.
She typed in I am and then the letters AFRID.
AFRID. The prosecutors are convinced this means Aislinn is afraid of her father.
She says purposely tanking the questions because she didn't want to answer questions.
Gorzyka insists Aislinn can answer the questions, but she just won't.
I don't know how many occasions. Aislinn was capable of answering her questions, and then we got here and everything all of a sudden didn't make sense.
Of course, all those other times, Scarcella heard the questions and could essentially put her words in Aislinn's mouth. Shane says it's not Aislinn who's afraid, it's Scarcella.
That is my job, and I am with her during her class period.
When she was unable to answer, she resorted to the strategies that I had seen several times before. I'm afraid, and didn't want to respond.
Shane had seen it before, and he thought that the court would see right through the mumbo-jumbo. But that's not what happened.
This child can't communicate, she's not communicating, and they still would not drop the charges.
So what does he do after that debacle? The whole thing crumbles. He sends me back to jail.
I could not eat lunch after I was just greatly dismayed to watch this go on. It was something I will never.
Did they have forensics?
No.
Did they have statements from any other adults?
No.
They have anything they found in the house?
They had nothing. They had nothing.
What was the case based on?
The case was based on Aislinn's allegations, supposed allegations.
Aislinn, the autistic child who can't speak.
Right.
I'm going to write an A. I'll write a B.
When I met with Aislinn, there was no facilitated communication. So unlike the investigators, I got to see how Aislinn would respond without someone helping.
Which is the B? Aislinn, point to the B for me. That's an A.
The obvious question, if she can't identify letters, how can she spell? And if she can't spell, how could she read?
That's the B, that's right.
Once you admit Aislinn Wendrow couldn't read, then the only conclusion is, well, then she never could have said anything through FC. She couldn't have typed.
6H67.
For the Wendrows, the highly charged court hearing has proven only that FC is a fraud. At best, a cruel joke on desperate parents. At worst, a tool for overzealous prosecutors. And for them, it's been both.
It made absolutely no sense. It wasn't going to work, and it didn't work.
But the prosecutors are relentless. The case drags on for another month before they finally announce they are dropping the charges.
The prosecutor's office ever come forward and say this was wrong?
No. There's never been an acknowledgement that, you know, we shouldn't have done this or we should have had more evidence. It's always been, you know, some excuse.
The Wendrows are devastated by the ordeal. But after fearing they would be torn apart forever, there's at least the comfort of being reunited.
I was euphoric. I mean, it was just, thank God, I've got my children back.
So is it over?
For us, emotionally, no.
How long did it take, or is it still taking, for the family to be what it was?
The family will never be what it was.
The bad thing was that she was clearly traumatized by it, and we have no way of knowing how, to what extent, and how to fix that.
For 6 months, Julian says Aislinn would get frantic if he was out of her sight for long. Ian, who endured that harrowing police interrogation, was deeply troubled too.
I was mad at what they had tried to do. I went to bed once from nightmares I had because of it. I started going to see a therapist because I had done a really good number on my head.
With the damage done to their reputations and relationships, the Wendros filed suit against the police, the prosecutors, the school district, and the state agencies involved in the case. All told, 61 different counts of alleged misconduct.
So now you realize what's been going on in your house.
Before it ever gets to court, the police department responsible for Ian's interview settles, admitting no wrongdoing, but agreeing to pay $1.8 million.
I ask all the kids I talk to not to make stuff up or pretend.
But the prosecutor's office is defiant. Gorsica insists he did nothing wrong. And on top of that, his office is immune from liability because it was just doing its job as mandated by law.
How can they be immune in this situation?
There's a legal body of case law out there that says, as long as you're wearing your prosecutor hat, you can say and do anything and you're protected.
There's no standard of reasonable behavior?
Yes, there is a standard, and we think they've crossed it, and that's what our lawsuit is all about.
But even though the federal judge hearing that suit called the entire investigation a runaway train, he accepted most of those immunity claims and dismissed most of Gordon's charges. To date, the prosecutor has been able to walk between the raindrops. In this National Law Journal article, Gorsica was asked if he thought the Wendros at least deserved an apology. His response? Over my dead body.
Hey officers, how you doing? Chris Cuomo, I'm with ABC News.
It seems Gorsica should answer some questions, but when we tried to speak with him, he called the cops, saying he was concerned when he realized he was being followed.
Gorsica called you though, right?
Yeah. If you get him to talk to you, you get him to talk to you.
So we tried calling him from outside the building where he is now in private practice.
So you don't want to come outside and address this yourself?
But knowing who we were didn't help the situation.
With all due respect, Mr. Gorsica, we've tried very hard to get you to do it the nice way. You didn't do it, that's why I'm here.
Nevertheless, Gorsica refused to do an interview, citing ongoing litigation.
Ms. Scarcella?
As for Cindy Scarcella, the facilitator responsible for all those accusations,
I'm Chris Cuomo from ABC News.
She now works in a clothing store at a mall. We went there to see if she would share her perspective.
I don't want to chase you, Ms. Scarcella, but I want to ask you about the Wendro case.
But as you can see, no dice.
So for this family trying to figure out how to get their life back, it comes down to what happened with you and their daughter. That's why it's so important.
But not important enough to Scarcella, who just drives away.
It would make a big difference to the family. You can help this family. Do you need an apology?
I would like an apology, but what I would really like is for the system to be fixed. I don't want this to happen to anybody else. Somebody can say something, can misconstrue, and make an allegation. And before you blink, you are in a cauldron of chaos.
As they await their day in court on the claims the judge let stand, the Wendros say their lives will never be the same. The stain of the allegations is like a scarlet letter that never really goes away.
I said, so maybe I'm oversensitive, I don't know. They hacked a chunk out of our lives. It's irrevocable, it's irreplaceable. You can't put it back.